Was Sonali Phogat murdered? If yes, how? By who? And what was the possible motive? Every day, new allegations and pieces of evidence are coming to light that add to the mystery surrounding Sonali Phogat's death. Today, Times Now has access to videos of the deceased BJP leader, one of them, which is from day before she passed away. Sonali can be seen at a pub dancing with the men now accused of her murder. In fact, this is of many days before her actual death taking place. The other video is of the previous night where she is accompanied by Sudhir Sangwan, her PA, who's seen helping her as she staggers, seemingly not in her senses. Later, as they approach the steps, Sonali falls to the ground. Police now say that the accused who have been arrested have confessed during interrogation that they mixed something in her drink.
जो CCTV फुटेज करली क्लब से लिए गए उनके आधार पर देखा गया कि एलेज्ड सुधीर सांगवान और उसका एसोसिएट सुखविंदर सिंह डिसीज्ड के साथ में क्लब में पार्टिंग कर रहे हैं और एक वीडियो से जाहिर होता है कि उसको एक सब्सटेंस फोर्सफुली विक्टिम को वन ऑफ द एक्यूज पिला रहा है। जब उसको इस तथ्य से कन्फ्रंट कराया गया तो सुखविंदर और सुधीर सांगवान ने पुलिस के सामने कन्फेस किया कि उन्होंने इंटेंशनली एक्यूज को लिक्विड में कोई ऑब्नॉक्सियस केमिकल मिला करके पिलाया।
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
We go across to our guest now. Joining us live is Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman, Nephron. Nirmal Kaur is former DJP of Jharkhand. But I first and foremost want to go across to Kuldeep Phogat, who's a brother-in-law of the deceased. And let me start with Sonali Phogat's family, who've in fact said that they have got an SOS call from Sonali the night of the murder. They've even claimed that she had been given drugs by one of those who were in fact with her. Let me begin by asking Sonali Phogat's brother-in-law, Mr. Kuldeep Phogat, सर ये बताएं कि आप ऐसा क्यों मानते हैं कि ये कंस्पिरेसी है और यहाँ पे मर्डर हुआ है?
मैं तो शुरू से ये कह रहा हूँ सर, ये एक मर्डर है, हार्ट अटैक हो ही नहीं सकता। उसके कोई बीमारी भी नहीं थी और कोई शरीर में दर्द वगैरह नहीं था, कोई ब्लड प्रेशर की बीमारी नहीं थी और दोनों टाइम व्यायाम करती थी वो और कोई तली हुई चीज़ नहीं खाती थी, ज़्यादा मिर्च मसाला नहीं खाती थी और जैसे सवेरे जूस लेना वो लेना, कभी बुखार से नहीं चढ़ी, ब्लड प्रेशर की बीमारी नहीं थी, ज़्यादा एक्टिव रहती थी, तो मॉडलिंग करती थी, मॉडल वगैरह है, अभिनेत्रियाँ वगैरह ये तो अपनी सेहत पे ज़्यादा ध्यान देती हैं जी, इसलिए हम नहीं मानते उसके यानी कि हार्ट अटैक हुआ है। और मैं तो शुरू से ही ये कह रहा हूँ उसका हार्ट अटैक नहीं हुआ, इसका मर्डर हुआ है।
तो क्या आपके परिवार के लोग हैं, सदस्य हैं, वो सांगवान और सुखविंदर को जानते थे?
मैं ये दूसरा आरोपी है इसके बारे में तो जानता नहीं, और ये सांगवान है, ये सुधीर, इसके बारे में जानता हूँ। ये 2019 में चुनाव हुआ था आदमपुर से, जब ये एक वर्कर के रूप में आया था और ये ड्राइवर की नौकरी की थी इसने और तनख्वाह लेता था मैडम से, और फिर ये पीए रख लिया। आस्ता आस्ता ये किसी को मिलने नहीं देता था, ना परिवार वालों को मिलने देता था, परिवार से दूर रखता था और सब जितने नौकर थे फार्म हाउस पे या और कहीं सबको यानी कि इसने हटा दिया था अपने आदमी।
लेकिन सर मेरा एक सवाल है सर कि गोवा पुलिस ये कह रही है कि एक केमिकल सब्सटेंस पाई गई थी जो सोनाली के ड्रिंक में ऐड की गई थी, क्या आप मानते हैं कि यही हुआ है?
ये बिल्कुल ठीक बात है, हम तो पहले से ही कह रहे थे ये इसको कुछ मिलाया हुआ है खाने के अंदर या पीने के अंदर, ये इनको मारना चाहते थे।
But there are many questions that still remain unanswered. And let me go across to Dr. Sanjeev Bagai for more on this. Dr. Bagai, there are many questions that remain unanswered in this. If it was a drug indeed, they were also spotted for 2.5 hours in a restroom is what police has said. And there are many aspects of this that continue to remain unexplained. What do you think has actually happened over here? And judging by the CCTV footage where she's seen staggering out, there are multiple versions where the family says that she had bruises on her body. The police is saying that the bruises were not serious. They could not have caused the death. What do you think has actually happened here? And if she was, at the point of time that she falls on the ground, if she was given medical help at that point of time, is it possible that Sonali Phogat could have been alive today? Was she left to die?
Good evening, Madhav. Good evening, everyone. So 3 parts to your question very quickly. I think first is any young person who's otherwise medically or clinically healthy, who has a sudden, suspicious, unnatural death will obviously require a complete investigation and a very detailed autopsy, including a toxicology report. With regards what the autopsy should include, it should include the blood, the urine, the sera, the hair, the skin and the nail samples, because this will give us a long-term exposure and a short-term exposure to any toxin or any stimulant or depressant which has been exposed to the deceased. Point number 3 is what possibly could have been added. It could have been a neurodepressant, it could be an opioid, it could be a cocaine group of drugs, benzodiazepine. These are all drugs which cause intoxication, neurodepression, sudden cardiac arrest. Now, whether the medical treatment, if it is given in time, yes, of course, if medical treatment is given in time, you can revive a person. You could even have collaborative evidence of, like we've seen in CCTV. I mean, clearly the deceased was intoxicated. She was ataxic. That means her gait was not normal. She was stuporous, perhaps. And if any intervention at that time would have been given, perhaps there would be a chance to save the patient. But having said that, I think we need to wait for a very detailed toxicology report, and I wish and pray that that is a neutral, fair investigation, and I'm pretty much sure that we'll get to the bottom of it, of what she was exposed to.
Right. Let me also bring in former DGP Jharkhand Nirmal Kaur on this. Ma'am, you've seen the police briefing, I presume, and you've seen what has been said by the police officers there in Goa. Now, there are a number of aspects that have come in over here in terms of how this entire incident took place, because the accused have confessed to applying drugs. The family says that this is murder and this was an attempt to usurp property. What do you think has happened here, ma'am? I know it's very hard to say prima facie because it's very early days in this case, but what do you think has exactly happened? Because there's so many questions that still remain unanswered.
I think it's spiking drink, for one thing, is a very, very common phenomenon. Spiking drink and raping women, these date rapes and all that, that's highly common in our society. So spiking drink is nothing new. The only thing is women or girls have to be very careful about who they hang around with, what they do. And murder, as we say in police, we were taught, these are ABC of police, that murder only 3 causes. Zar, Zoru, Zameen. Zar is enmity, dushmani. Zoru is a woman, like something to a romantic angle or a sexual angle. And Zameen is property, some kind of, property or money or whatever. Maybe in her case it was all. It appears prima facie, I mean, it's only speculation at this stage, but these 2 people, as the relative has said, they were kind of, cutting her off from rest of the world and, somehow surrounding her with their own men and not allowing her free access. Maybe she was in some kind of an abusive hold with them. Prima facie, as the relative said, that is what I thought, that it was must have been a very abusive situation, where the person is put, isolated. They aim to isolate her from rest of the world. I mean, they demand isolation, and they kind of enforce it in this case, as the relative told us, her brother-in-law.
Right.
And I also feel, that it is, I mean, a woman has to be vigilant about her own security, trusting people that are not trustworthy. That is what, I think these 2 people are thoroughly untrustworthy people, and she seems to be somehow in their clutches totally.
Absolutely.
They are drugging her, they are, taking advantage of her. So it could well be a murder which was, or it could well be have been a slow poisoning or, abuse over a period. It could not have been one-off incident that one day she was spiked, her drinks were spiked, and she was raped and murdered.
Let's bring in the family on that. Let's bring in the family, because you've spoken and dwelt in great detail on what the possible motivations would be. Kuldeep Phogat ji, आप बताइए कि आपको क्या लगता है कि इस मामले में मोटिवेशन या मारने का कारण क्या हो सकता है?
इसके बारे में ये प्रॉपर्टी हड़पना चाहते थे सोनाली फोगाट की, और सुखविंदर को तो मैं जानता नहीं ये कैसे, यानी कि पहले से ही ये गोवा में था, यहाँ से तो सांगवान और सोनाली फोगाट ही गए थे यहाँ से, तो हिसार से तो ये निकले थे आगे, पता नहीं 2 आदमी मिले हैं या 1 आदमी मिले, हमारे को कोई कंफर्म नहीं है.
Very important, very important. Nirmal Kaur, another aspect, they wanted to usurp her property. That's another likely scenario that the family has repeatedly been talking about.
Yeah, I think maybe they were after her property and they wanted to eliminate her or keep her in their own clutches so that they could get the property transferred. Property is a big motivation for such kind of murders.
Right. Right. And before we, in fact, end this debate, Dr. Bagai, very quick question to you. How fast can we get to know? Because, you know, in these, the toxicology, the histopathology, the viscera reports, so on and so forth, how quickly will we perhaps get a perspective on what exactly has transpired? What exactly would be the cause of death? How long do these reports typically take to arrive?
Yeah, so this becomes actually a critical answer to be obtained to get a fair neutral opinion. So initially the autopsy is normally taken with photographs of the disease from the exterior, a very detailed histopathology of the major organs. Again I repeat, the blood, sera and the viscera, that means your internal organs are preserved. The blood and urine samples, as far as the drug levels, go down very rapidly between 6 and 12 hours, and after 2 to 3 days it practically becomes non-detectable. But your hair and skin and nails retain the toxins even up to a period of few weeks. So we need a very detailed report. Normally the report will take anywhere between 10 to 12 days for the toxicology reports to come as a detailed report. But I think initial reports, as far as the autopsy is concerned, should come within 2 to 4 days.
All right, the initial reports should come within 2 to 4 days, and given the fact the accused are in custody, Nirmal Kaur, perhaps the process of investigation would be that much faster, facilitated that much more. But where do you see the investigation further headed from here on? And you know, in terms of actually establishing the role of these two individuals, we already have a bit of information. There is in fact allusion to a fact that there was a relationship between one of the accused and the deceased. Where do you see the investigation headed from here on, Nirmal Kaur?
I think even the facts that have come up so far as reported in the media, it is a very open and shut case. These people definitely drugged her, misused her, maybe they wanted to exploit her, take away her property, and somehow she got killed, maybe an overdose of the drug, maybe, in scuffle, or maybe just, an overdose of the drug seems to be the most likely cause. As they say, the injuries are not that huge that they could be fatal. So perhaps it's an overdose of the drug, because she seems to be in good health otherwise. She's young, she doesn't have a history of anything.
Absolutely.
So maybe it is just that they drugged her so much.
All right, very unfortunate and shocking incident that has taken place indeed. I'd like to thank Dr. Bagai, Nirmal Kaur and Kuldeep Phogat for joining us this evening.